Conrad's out today. He's up in Dallas doing some business. He'll be back with us next week. So in the meantime and in between time, Mr. Mars is taking up the car clinic. This ought to be good.
See, that's how good it's going to be.
Yeah, I can tell already it's going to be great. Can't even turn the mic on. Okay, well, let's have it.
Well, one of the things I was doing, because we were hearing on the weatherman that next week is going to be our first freeze. Winter's been kind of weak down here in our part of the world, but that didn't happen. So I have to worry about my father's van, my 91-year-old father, worry about his battery, is it weak and all that good stuff. And Conrad has talked to us before about the batteries and things. But what really drove me to this, I took my father over to meet with some other people, and one of them was talking about their batteries and how his father was he had this ritual where every 60, 90 days, he would take and turn the lights on the car, run the battery down. He had a shelf and a battery charger mounted, and he would take this battery and take it in there and put it on the charger 2 hours at, the 10 amps, and then he'd put it on the trickle charge for 24 hours. And he did this. This was his process to maintain that battery. And what he was doing, he would go out and buy a 3-year battery, cheapest battery he could buy. But by doing this, he could make this thing last 4, 5, maybe even 6 years. And I thought, yeah, okay. But in doing some research about what really causes the battery to go bad when it gets cold, there's some validity to that. So one of the things that happens down here in Houston in particular, it gets hot, it stays hot all summer long, the batteries get hot, and there's some evaporation there just naturally. It's kind of like an athlete. He gets really active, he starts sweating. Drinking water is not enough. It just doesn't replenish everything enough. So your battery's the same way. It starts losing some of the nutrients, if you will, that make it function.
The juice, baby.
The juice. And so it starts losing this during the summer. So, most people put water in it whenever it needs it. Hopefully we're putting distilled water in it, but sometimes that's not quite enough. So that by the time the winter gets here, that battery is already in weakened condition because it's lost some fluids, if you will, lost those nutrients. And so it gets cold. So when it gets cold, all the electrons and stuff, everything moves slower, just like our bodies do. And so it doesn't start. But you put the jumper cables on it, you put a shot to it, get it fired up, get it going, everything gets circulating, and it starts functioning again for a while until it just gets to where you can't rejuvenate it like that. So one of the things that it does, this process of doing whenever it drops down, is it builds this a covering. It builds this algae, if you will, on the plates inside the battery. And as they build up, that makes it much harder for the battery to do its job and to generate the electricity. And I am simplifying this quite a bit, but it works for me to understand what's going on. So that by actually draining that battery down and putting that battery charger and replenishing those nutrients in there, it actually cleans all that stuff and makes the battery actually work better. So the idea that the older gentleman was doing 50, 60 years ago is he was literally drawing it down and putting that electrical charge on there to clean those plates. It would actually clean them, and that's how he was doing that. So there's a lot of validity to that as far as taking care of your car. So understand that the heat is actually worse on the battery than the cold is, but the cold is what can actually push it over the edge after the heat's done its business for 3 or 4 months down here in our part of the world. So it's really just a weakened battery is what really causes the problem. So the things you can do is look for the corrosion on the battery post. Make sure you turn off all the lights. All the loads cars now have got a ton of things on them. They were talking about going to a 24-volt system because of the draw.
Well, they actually run all the time. They're
Some
not
of them
awake
do, yes.
all the time, but they're drawing energy.
Yeah, it's kind of like a keep alive signal type thing. So keeping the things clean, make sure you can turn off everything you can, like your heated seats and stuff. Turn them off when you're not really using them. I use them in the summertime just because they feel good on my back.
Oh, my God. You don't need to tell everybody about that.
Okay, well, we won't
because
mention that.
It tells everybody how old you really are.
Then we won't mention that. So keep your battery properly tested, keep it properly charged, and check it, particularly if it's over 3 years of, we got a freeze coming, just to make sure you're not out there getting ready to go to work and it's cold and your car won't start.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.